guys have a mic? No, you don't. And this one too? Okay.
Come on, guys, don't be shy.
Come on, guys, feedback cafe. Come in the cycle or run away right now.
Yeah, we don't bite.
People are running away.
Yeah.
Vabbè, iniziamo, dai. No, no, l'altra persona si è alzata.
Let's just make it smaller, right?
Yeah, no. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Well, I am Claudio from Sotterraneo Theatre Company. We are a theatre company from Italy. We will perform here at B Festival on Saturday. And Isla and Miguel asked us to facilitate the Feedback Cafe this year at the festival. And well, today we will talk with Steffi and Klaus, who are, and the other collaborators of them, who are presenting their works, their visual arts work this year at the festival. So first thing first, I'll let them introduce themselves, who they are, what kind of project they are bringing here this year. And I'll remind everyone that we are on streaming in this moment, I guess. So use the microphone, otherwise people who are watching us won't hear us. So there you go.
First, sorry, Steffi, I've been asked by the other boss to make the circle smaller, like that we can have a real human connection. Let's try at least. So make it smaller, please, guys. Anyway, if someone else wants to join the circles, it's not a closed circle, at least. And that's it. Sorry, Steffi, for this interruption. Go ahead.
Great. It was the best idea. So my name is Steffi or Stephanie or Steph. I don't really care. You can call me how you like. We were invited last year by Isla and Miguel to join in B Festival. So first it was just Klaus and me. And then we met Johnny at the hub here, and I was told that Johnny has an old sewing machine. And then we got in touch with each other, and he said, oh yeah, you can have that to create some artwork. And I think throughout the past year, it turned more and more into a collaboration. And more than 10 years ago, I met Laura in Munich. For around 7 years. Laura is based in Oxford so far, and she's a lot into creative writing. My connection to the art world was because of the punk and DIY community. So I started to organize concerts, and mostly really wild ones. So that's when I started to play the drums. not to learn them, but to play them. And it was at a concert I met Laura. It was a concert by a lady called Kimya Dawson, and we both liked the music, and then we got in touch with each other. And I met Klaus about 10 years ago at a very funny exhibition. It was about art that totally sucks, and art that has to stay in the cellar because nobody wants to see it. It was a kind of supermarket, and yeah, we all had a lot of fun, and it was organized by an organization where everybody helps together to support refugees. It was around 10 years ago. Yeah, that's how it all started. I passed that on to give them their own words.
I feel like Steffi already. Yeah, you already said it perfectly. Yes. So my connection to Steffi and Klaus is through music, and I was asked to join them for the outside performances to play some music for the people who step into the swapping chamber.
Yeah, my name's Johnny. Basically, Stephanie and Klaus came here last year, and they did a piece of work in Birmingham Market where they did a similar thing and tried to connect with people, ask them what they need in their life, about their problems or something they want, and then they made something for them. And we really found that people were really open, which we didn't really expect. And they did come and they said what was on their mind, and all it took was just to ask people. And I think Isla and Miguel thought it worked well, and maybe we could extend it, and so they asked me to help construct a mobile, kind of like, call it a swapping chamber, and that was my role, to help construct that, so then they could take it on the road essentially and sort of wheel it around Birmingham and try and get people in to basically make a connection and firstly listen to people and then react to what they want. So Stephanie makes things on the sewing machine for them, Klaus paints things and makes little collages, and then Laura sings sort of songs but connected to how they're feeling and what they need.
Yeah, hello, my name is Klaus. What should I say? We have some parts of our artworks that are difficult to list them. What Johnny was talking about is this thing we call the swapping chamber. We go outside in the streets with this. And there's a painted curtain, and Stephanie cuts things out for the people to sew something, and it will be destroyed. Our art will be a process of destroying. Yes, then here we have the shopping trolleys, the cut-in-half shopping trolleys. There are to use and to experience them, and each of one has a cut-in-half carpet. You maybe recognize the English carpets. They always have this, we call it the H sections. You can put two carpets together, it's even in the airplane, and it's everywhere. And we have the cut-in-half carpet there with some video works, and what else do we have some more. I forgot. Stephanie, you remember.
There is a map there with their installations, so you can go there after, obviously after the feedback cafe, and if you didn't already do it, you can see their installation.
Yeah, so for me it's really very interesting to go maybe into some rough subjects. I like the rough aspect of being out on the streets and meeting people. I wouldn't call it performance because there is no character I play. I'm just like I am. And I like it even if maybe in such a fancy theater you have a special kind of audience. And I think most of the people who came to us would rarely come to such a theater, and that's what I like so much about it. Even it's sometimes not so easy going then, and I like this open wound a lot about it, and also this aspect of exhaustion, because I'm sewing and I'm singing and I'm drumming at the same time. My machine is amplified. I like to wire it up. I just couldn't bring my strange noise toys with me because they look like a bomb. And at the airport I always have trouble with that stuff. We spent so many hours together till late in the mornings and constructed, and we totally forgot the time. I think we had the same flow, the three of us, and then Laura joined us this Monday. And yesterday we had a very beautiful moment with a lady in a wheelchair. She will come and visit the shows on Thursday, so maybe some of you might perform then. And she told us she never goes to the theater because she thinks it's not really accessible for her. And then she was at that chamber and said, maybe I have to stay outside. And then I said, no, let's have a look. And you can easily pick it up, because we talked a lot about that in advance, that we want to make it accessible for everybody. And then you can even pull a whole family under it, and they can be part of it. And sitting there inside, it's really kind of protective, because yesterday we were in the midst of a construction site and I didn't even hear it. So it was really interesting how you feel inside that thing.
Thank you. And to break the ice, we start with a first thought and a first question, but then obviously we hope that you have suggestions or thoughts or other questions for them. And our first thought is that your work suggests us to do not have a surface look of things and people around us, but to have a deeper look into our daily life and to see the invisible. You ask us, can we be persuaded to question our daily routines? So your work suggests us to interact with the world and to recreate somehow the reality. Isn't it? Like with the stone or with other, to listen to the world, to feel the world, and to watch it in another way.
Yeah, it's interesting that there is written persuaded. I think my shitty German English was corrected there, because for me it's more playful, not about persuade, but maybe to put a kind of lust for thinking in exchanging with the people. I think that was what we were trying to say, but maybe our words were not the perfect ones for it. And so this is, I think the interesting aspect for us is when we are surprised by the people who interact with us, so that we are kicked out of our own, we have to take off our own blinkers. Maybe we think, oh, with that kind of person it might be like this or like that, and then it's suddenly not. And I think that is really interesting about it. For me personally, step by step, because with Laura playing music, we often have the situation that we have good sound, light is perfect, and then we have one-to-many situations. I love to create the costumes, and then with the music, it's quite protective. I have the feeling I can dive into my own world. But step by step, I thought I like it way better if I'm not protected anymore. If there can be some kind of intruders and the borders have to be kicked apart or kicked away. And even if people are completely different like me. So in the place where I grew up, for example, there is a lot of conservative thinking going on, and then there is a lot the discussion in the left-wing community in Germany about talking with them, starting a conversation or not. And most of them say, no, we have to be super strict and not listen to this conservative talking anymore. And I often think, how is it possible to proceed if I don't even try a kind of conversation? And I love to raise questions, because I come from a working class family, and there is a lot of shit going on there, and so which I don't really like by myself. I mean the conservative thinking, not having on the blinkers all the time. And so I have no chance with arguments. I have a chance when I raise questions, because then they have to think by themselves. So that's what I really like, to raise questions, maybe, not fixed answers.
And did it ever occur to have an unpleasant meeting with people during your pieces, like something really complicated as an interaction, as a human interaction, I mean? Maybe some conservative douchebag who didn't want to.
It's really difficult to remember, because when I started years and years ago, I was very shy, and I didn't have the confidence, and I didn't know how to say no. So sometimes a border is very helpful too. And back then, I think I was persuaded to do some stuff I would never ever do right now. So like people starting to humiliate me because of the sewing machine, and standing outside on the streets and asking me to do some really nasty things for them. And I think now I know how to, it's easy for me to say no, and but still to discuss with them. I think that changed a lot. Maybe you have an example?
Klaus, do you believe in this kind of dialogue just as Steffi does? Like dialogue with the different ones, with people you don't really are close to?
Yes, I do, of course. If we ask the people in the streets about something missing, everything could be happen. Because it's a real question. There's death, there's murder, there's sickness everywhere. Of course, something like, they could tell us something like this, and what shall we do then? Or some, yeah, for example, we met a homeless woman and talked with her a lot, and had a really good encounter with her, and protected her a little bit from a waitress from a cafe. She was attacked by her a little bit, and suddenly she attacked migrants. What do you call it? Yeah.
The waitress or the homeless?
No, the homeless woman. And that was a kind of shifting experience that we couldn't react so quickly.
Yeah, maybe it was a little bit similar like last night with the anti-Semitism. So that was the situation. We were in Cologne, in Germany. We had a really good conversation with an old lady losing all her teeth, and she was working as a prostitute and was living on the streets, and I think I had a good connection with her. And suddenly the waitress wanted her to go away because she didn't look very fancy, and she thought it was not good for selling the fancy coffee. and she wanted her to move away. And then the lady, we had that kind of room in the open space. It was really cool. And then she was really sad because she liked the conversation, and then she attacked that waitress with some very racist words. And that was really a difficult situation, but because if you have that space with someone and you finally got somebody to open up, and then that person suddenly, switches over into some racist bullshit talk, and we felt like being a little bit numb. And I think these situations are super difficult, to be that quick to react. And I think this is something really challenging. I would love to have, you have some days where you're really strong, where it's easy to react quickly, and then others where you're not that strong. And on the streets it can happen so easily or so quickly that a situation shifts, and what to do then. Yeah, I love to learn more and more about it, how to deal with it.
And are you happy that you met that lady now, or you prefer that you never met her?
No, I'm happy that I met her.
Okay.
Yeah, that I
anybody
tried
else
to talk with her.
Yeah. Of course, we'd like this to be... Thank you.
It's not a question really, but I just want to say that I really loved the film, and I thought it was the highlight of the evening. It was just beautiful and funny and moving. Thank you.
Thank you. For us it was just a really short cut because we were asked to do a little one. We have a 9-minute piece there, and there you can, it's like a strange tutorial for these, we call them protection shields, and they refer a lot to these social interactions, how to protect yourself, or to shut yourself down, or to open yourself. You can use all that stuff. It's no, if it gets dirty or if it rips apart, don't worry, it can all be fixed together again or transformed into something completely different. So that was a lot of fun, and really thanks to Johnny, or maybe some of you know Ben Weddington. They gave us so many inspirations. We had the chance to visit Johnny took us to some working spaces, like workshops, where people who repair cars, people who do the silver work or the work with the diamonds, and we tried to ask them if we can do something together with them, and they were really open-minded. I think we had maybe one situation where the guy was a little bit ashamed of the mess he had in his place, and he didn't want that in the film, but the rest was really easygoing. There was a slide. It was constructed for pulling down all the tons of fabric, and I wanted to slide down there, but they didn't want me to. I would have loved to. Yeah.
Maybe you could. Oh, sorry. Maybe you could tell us about the relationship between the different parts of the thing. Like, I'd like to know what the role of the trolley is in the street, and also with these specific bits of gear. Were they inspired by specific encounters you had, and if so, what were they?
Yeah. So we can shift the mic around because each of us can say something. Do you want to say something to the trolleys, maybe? You?
In general, every piece has something with cut in a half or being an encounter of something. Maybe it's the same to cut something in a half and put it together with, or to meet people you've never met before and create. That everything has in it as a concept.
Yeah, so the shopping trolleys, the main inspiration for them were these anti-terror bollards at New Street. When we were in Birmingham for the very first time last summer, they haven't been there. So they were quite new. I think when we came back in September, they haven't been there either. But then in May, suddenly they look like something for the Queen. There is a, how do you say, doorway, or yeah, you can pass through. And then we used the colors, the black and the yellow, and we wanted to use the foam they use at the construction sites. And for me, it's interesting to shift this aspect, because for me, this the way things are advertised here in the UK, I think it's a little bit like a preview for how it might be very soon in our country. With you can go to a theater and get a drink for free. We would never advertise a theater play like this, with this drink for free or something extra. It's something we do for buying shoes, or if you buy clothes or something. So that's, I think that's still complete different. And the shopping trolleys, for me, it's something like not thinking anymore, stuffing it full with stuff you don't really need. And then we had fun to steal it. But it was our own fault. Isla and Miguel don't have nothing to do with it. I have a lot of joy with stuff like that, and yeah, so we helped together with grabbing a lot of stuff. And then Johnny cut them in half, and Klaus made those ropes, and we put the foam on it. And it's really kind of uncomfortable to sit so close to each other. Maybe there are cultures where it's quite cozy, where you are very close with your family or more lively, but if you are raised as a very private person with your own private space, it's quite strange to sit there with a stranger. And we wanted to have the opposite, not to be apart from something, but to be challenged to exchange with someone. That's why this thing. And this mic stands, it was subconscious. I love music. I love all the technical aspects about the hard work, having to carry the drums, having to putting up everything by myself. And then for me, those topiary spiral cones are so super strange, which are in front of some houses in England. You know, these, how do you, bushes, topiaries? Yeah, and these are our topiaries. And the dust cleaners and the earplugs, it's all stuff you usually use at home to keep everything nice and clean and tidy. And the earplugs, put it in your ears, and you don't have to hear anything that's outside. We have a lot of German proverbs for that, shutting down your curtains, and you see everything still, but you never help the people outside. So that's something really fundamental in our country, that the people usually see what's going on, but they don't get involved. And so I think it's a lot about also thinking, not making fun of any kind of culture, but dealing with our own mistakes or what's going on with ourselves, what's wrong about or what's interesting about that. Yeah, and then the cut it in half cardboards. Yeah, maybe at first inspired by Ben Weddington told us that in front of the library the trees were cut it in half just because of the strange fear of terrorists might be hiding on top of the trees, which was really awkward for us. And then Selina, the girlfriend of Johnny's, who organizes a lot here at the festival, you might know her, she's over there. She has another, or had, I don't know if she still has. Do you still have that job? No, she had the job to make delicious breads for the people in the jewelry quarter who want to have a nice breakfast. And they always said, please, could you cut that one in half, please? And Selina told us that she gets angry because they have their knives by themselves and they could do it by themselves. And I thought it was so, yeah, for me it was also weird to ask somebody else to cut something in half. I can do it by myself. So yeah, and that was the thing to split. And it even hurted us because this wardrobe is so beautiful, and I still remember when the three of us stood in front of it and we said, shit, should should we leave it like this? Because the people won't get our ideas anyways, because we are always thinking in such strange things, yeah. And then we said, well, let's do it. And I was the first one who had the saw, because it was very painful for the two of them. Yeah. Yeah, so that's that. And the swapping chamber was like a kind of treasure chamber for us, that something special can happen inside, but also with this rough scaffolding. We wanted to be part of the city because it changes rapidly at the moment, and there is a lot of construction going on. And yeah, and with the materials, I learned a lot during our first performance at the Bullring Market. There was a couple of homeless ladies, and they wanted to interact with us. And I had these lost and found materials from the streets. And suddenly I had the feeling, I don't want to use that for them. And then I took some really nice, fancy fabrics for them to construct or to create something. And I learned a lot from those encounters out there. Because in the art, in the art world, there is so much irony, and irony is so easy to use maybe ugly-looking things and transform it into something beautiful. And sometimes I get sick of that irony thing, even if it's funny or there is humor inside. But I like the tiny little moments more than this very rude irony thing. I think. Those encounters, maybe for some performers it might be too nice, because we love to communicate and we don't want to we are not interested in provoking so much. We have no problems if somebody wants to get rid of us. We were at the mailbox and Laura and I were singing a song. It was, yeah, with some kind of punk shouting, and it totally didn't fit to that fancy area. But the funny thing was, this guard was so polite. I think he wanted to disrupt us immediately, but he didn't, and I liked that so much that he was too polite so we could do that whole song there. Yeah, and then some construction site workers, they really wanted to know more about the Bee Festival, because they liked that this area was interrupted somehow.
Questions or thoughts or whatever? Or then
I just have a kind of practical question, but I think it would impact the work, is how often you were here and how often you were back, and what changed between visits, and reflecting on what you'd done, and then like just that kind of evolution over time and space.
First time we've been here was the Bee Festival 2017. Then we've been here in autumn and May, July this year, and now we are here for about 2 weeks. And yeah, there was a lot of changes. This terror bollards, I can't really remember if they were there last year. But
I'm sure they weren't. I'm really sure they weren't in September. No, you don't think so? Yeah, I think it was later when they built them up. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I still remember the first experience I was totally fascinated by the performers at Bee Festival, because the whole world of dance and performing with the body is really a complete different world from if you work with visual arts. Sometimes you're really disconnected from your body, so I can't even do this one. And I was really fascinated. I liked it so much, and I think it made me really think about more, what is the thing I can do? And I thought, yeah, it's going out on the streets and not being in character at all, because other people can do that way more better, or they like it way more better. Because even if we are performing with our band, maybe at first we start like being in character, but I never ever can hold it, or how do you say it? I never ever hold it. There's always a moment where I totally fuck everything up. So, yes, yeah, I do, I guess. Did I ever stay in character all of the? I think there's always something I react to, and then I change.
Okay, so this might be the time when we ask you to ask some questions to the audience. If you have something, because we actually think that there's parts of a piece that stays obscure to the author himself. Something you don't know you've done, or something you mean and you didn't want to. Yeah. So maybe if you ask something to the audience or to whoever, you gotta understand something more about your own work. So if you have a question that you'd like to ask, be our guest.
Oh, that's a really special offer, because I think it's really precious, but it's, I have to still think a little bit about it. Do you already have a question in your mind? Or you?
The video is quite funny, isn't it? Yeah. And I was wondering if people just thought it as a funny video, or like, we've just seen it kind of small, haven't we? And then, because I think they use humour quite a lot to sort of break a barrier, to not be too intimidating. But it is quite serious, because people are really open up, and they really say how they feel, and it's quite a fine line, isn't it, between just oh we're funny or thing, but then people need to take it seriously as well, to sort of say how they're feeling and to respond. And I would just guess, does it have that other layer to it, or is it just funny, or?
You mean that video?
No, the one in the.
The one in the. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny the way you said it was. How did you? Because she's in a hole in the ground. You know. What way was it moving?
You keep subverting it. I mean, you create a hiding, and then emerge happy, or. It's just juxtapositions of of expectations, really, that it was something funny and then it wasn't, or it wasn't something funny and then it was. I think it worked at two levels all the way through, really. Yeah.
Someone else, please help this guy to understand the reaction to the video. Then I have one question about that video, which is some sort of, if you agree, some sort of parody of the marketing language, right? It's like you're trying to sell something, even if you're giving it for free to everybody, right? So I was asking you all, I mean, how about this choice? I mean, what's the meaning for you? And do you think that this kind of marketing language is something that we can escape from? So you had to deal with it while you were producing stuff. I mean, if I produce something, even if it's art, then the marketing language jumps up in my mind no matter what. Is that, what do you think about it?
In my daily life, I totally fail at marketing, so that's nothing I'm personally good at, or I don't even care so much about it. Personally, I liked it there because it was a lot of exchanging a lot of thoughts about it when we did the video together, the three of us. And then Laura was also part of composing the music, so the music is also yesterday, it's all done by ourselves. The music yesterday, for example, was all composed by a special kind of Dampfmaschine, a machine that makes a steam machine using in the process of fabric production. So I like to compose stuff like that together with Laura and friends, and also with Klaus. And so this marketing thing is something like, we know we are not really professional performers. I think we kind of like it that we fail, or that it's not perfect. We like that those mistakes. And for me, it's really, usually things are advertised that are mass-produced. And so maybe it's similar. When I produce art, I like the exhaustion. I like this potlatch to totally do everything or give everything for free. So as I'm not really good with that money stuff. And then also, and the marketing language is completely different. It usually shouldn't work with such strange stuff. Nobody is interested in a brick foot warmer. Doesn't really work, or in a knee bra. It's totally uncomfortable. And yeah, so I think the only thing that kind of works might be the mask. Laura tried it that night. And so, yes, I like that twist. And for me, it was quite interesting to put the sociological part in between. I really wanted to put that photo footage in between, the photos you can see in between the marketing stuff. And that's what I really like, because there we always argue. Then, so sometimes Klaus or Johnny said, "That's so strange, Steffi. Why do you do that again?" Or Johnny always says, "Make it easier, make it on the point or quick," and stuff. And yeah, I think I tend to be really strange sometimes, because it's just by impulse. I do a lot on my impulse, and not so much. There is a kind of concept, because I'm really interested in what's going on, like political issues and sociological issues, but not so much writing it down before, but I think it's always there, and then somehow it flows. And then not everybody understands it immediately, but if only one person does it, or does it completely different, it's also okay. But there we are really different. That's why it might be good if the others answer too.
I can try, but you know my... Yeah. If we meet the people on the streets and ask for personal content, we are actually giving them 2 presents, each of one of us, but it doesn't really connect to the thing that was said. But it is a real present because of our will to do it, because of the things we destroy for it, because of this swapping chamber Johnny did, and the look of it. But it's really a no meaning thing they get, but it's loaded with all of the context. And maybe that's similar to the, or totally the opposite of the commercial talking, because it makes big words for nothing. That was the idea, maybe, to do it like that.
Yeah, there are slogans like "pro tip," "feel the difference." So it's just nothing. It's just like empty words. But what we experience on the streets is the complete different. Yesterday we had a last encounter when, with the lady who who wanted to enter, and it was possible. And each of us did something completely different. The lady loved literature, Laura does too, and I think there was a lot of connection going on. And then we said, now it could be over. So before we had a very rough one, and then the difference was really huge in the encounters. So I think like this, in being in such a character, when we meet the people, we are never like this. We don't have such a character. Maybe I like the costumes, but I'm never in character on the streets.
Well, yeah, the thing is, what is interesting to me is that you seem to have still faith in people, in meeting the people and having a human connection with people. And so as the theme of the visual arts program in B-Festival was like imaginary and physical borders, it seems to us that the way you want to cross and to break these borders is like a human way to do that, like to cross and break like emotional borders, and like to connect people, like with a trolley, or even with talking to people and having a conversation with them. And so the question is it so? And the other question is it still worth it for you in an age like, you know, the people are continuously connected, but in a virtual way, but they are disconnected in the vis-a-vis way. And so is it worth it, or are we like changing and transforming ourselves as a species, like we are mutating into something else?
I think that's a really, really interesting question, especially what you just said about how people are connected online and how a connection in person is different.
Yeah.
Because I think online you can get depressed from using too much social media, because people don't present themselves as vulnerable in the same way they do when they step into the chamber with us on the street. So I was really impressed that all you have to do is basically give people a space to say something about their life that's not perfect, and they will say it to complete strangers, which I find really unbelievable. They don't know us and they trust us with something that's difficult for them. And I don't think you do that online. You don't, or maybe some people try to do that, but often it's just like, look how beautiful I am, or like, look how beautiful my lunch is. So, so I think that's something people do need. They need a space to say how it's not perfect, and that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, for me it's still worth it. I often have the feeling when I do communication or conversation online, sometimes it's more like a dead-end street. So if I'm really critical with myself, it's like show off with some good pictures and a good headline, or maybe a good quote or something. With people I met in other countries, maybe there is a more close connection online. But with the people from the same city, you usually meet them on the streets, but the conversation with them online is really all about show off. It's really strange. I think it only works for me with the people I hardly see. If I had a connection when I was in that country and now I can't see them anymore, then this online communication is super. I like it a lot. But I think I could get totally rid of it with the people I can see in my daily life. With the people I can see in Munich, for example, it doesn't make sense to me to communicate with them via Instagram or Facebook, because that's only showing, I did this today, I did that today, and then always having the bit, oh, I wasn't there, or yes. So it's a difference if it's with somebody from far away. And then with what you said, is it still worth it to talk with the people? 2 years ago, Klaus and I got the chance to try and stay sometimes in the total outskirts in the Black Forest in Germany. And when we decided to do it, always for some months staying there and then for a little time in Munich, where we are based at, all the people told, oh, you're so crazy. Steffi, you're always on the road, you love concerts, you love being amongst people, you will hate that. And I like it because it's totally different. You don't have the safe space of this community that is into art, that is in your bubble. And there, in that village, they all hate the stuff we do. They totally hate art and performance and all that stuff. So it's you really have to communicate. Otherwise there is no chance to get a connection. Otherwise, you can just be super selfish and do it for your own. So I like it. I think I really love it. I was raised in the countryside, and I left it because I hated it because it was so close, and the neighbor already told the other neighbor some houses before, she did this and that, did you see it? And I was so happy to be in a city where nobody knows me. And then it was a challenge for me to go back in such a space, but I kind of like it to, sometimes I hate it, but I still like it to have to do it.
If anybody has some other questions, otherwise I think it's time for our last question. So I'm gonna give like 5 seconds. And 5 seconds are gone. We asked you to share with us, because I know you like people. We usually don't. We like more books and movies. So we asked you to share with us a book or a movie or both that you think that everybody should know, everybody in the world. Did you think about it?
Jean-Luc Godard, Weekend is my favorite movie.
Repeat it?
Jean-Luc Godard, this French nouvelle vague filmmaker.
Okay.
Weekend. Is
Weekend.
It's really the end of cinema. I like it.
The Godard.
Books I like. Yeah.
And why?
Because it's the end of cinema. So many ideas to breaking the rules of filmmaking, and incredible funny and incredible for inspiration, getting inspiration.
So it's really a very difficult question because there is so much out there. There is one film, I saw it many years ago. It's Ice Storm by Ang Lee. I totally love it, and I could watch it again and again. It's with Sigourney Weaver, and it's about this frozen thing in between the people, in between the families, and so really stormy, icy cold. I love that topic a lot. I think I love that topic of violence a lot in some kind of aspects. And then the other one is Bildnis einer Trinkerin by Ulrike Oettinger.
And this is harder, this is really harder. You're going to write it down for me later? Okay.
Ulrike Oettinger is a queer filmmaker based in Germany, and she already started in the 70s with filmmaking. She did a lot together with Valeska Gert, a performer, a dancer. And so her films are super strange, very sociological, and I can totally recommend them. Bildnis, like portrait of a female drinker. Bildnis einer Trinkerin. I don't know if it is translated. Portrait of a female drinker.
Yeah, get it.
Yeah. And a book I really love is Half of a Yellow Sun by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. It's a writer from Nigeria, a female one, and when I wrote it, I thought our history lessons totally sucked because we know way too little about all what was going on in the African continent, for example, or in others. It's so super fucking interesting because it's all connected with Europe's history, the war between Biafra and Nigeria back then. And when you read her words, you can even smell the herbs you never ate before. So she's a super good writer. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie.
Ngozi
Half
Adichie,
of a Yellow
okay.
Sun.
Okay, guys. Whoa. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah, for me it's a really difficult question because I just did a master's in creative writing, so we had to read so many books and then to think of one that I would like to pick. But I have friends who are writers in Oxford, so I'm going to say them because maybe then yeah, you wouldn't necessarily find out about them in another way. I really recommend a book of short stories that's called Fen by Daisy Johnson. And the short stories, they're all connected to each other, and they're all set in the Fenlands. And they are very, they all tell the stories of women. They're very feminist, and they, you can tell that there's something strange happening, strange things are happening. But someone described the book as sitting in a room, like reading this book is like sitting in a room that's slowly getting filled with water, and you only realize that you're drowning once you look up. And that's, so I really like her writing Fen by Daisy Johnson.
Quickly, Destiny Disrupted. Disrupted.
It's a film.
That's a book, like a history of the world book, but from Islamic perspective.
By whom?
I think it's Tamin Ansari. Ansari, A-N-S-A-R-Y.
Okay, whatever. I'm gonna ask you later. Okay, guys, thanks for sharing these things and the feedback cafe.
Yeah, a little marketing corner. On next Friday, you will be touring the city with a swapping chamber. So if you'd like to join them somewhere, even for the thousands who are listening to us streaming. So if you want to go and join them, you can find them in the city, right?
Yeah, we might be around Victoria Square.
Okay, around Victoria Square. Yeah, from 11:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m.
Yeah, look for the
almost.
bright curtains. We're hard to miss.
Yeah, bright curtains. So, there you go. Is it? Yeah. Okay, thank you.